differently because of this. We're all not going to face this the same. But over the next, let's see, it's probably taken us 15, 18, 20 years to get into this. We're probably coming down or coming up to the peak of the wave of this, and then we will start to see everything mellow out over time.
And our data would suggest that the peak of the wave is 2014, 2015, and that the mellow period, we're really starting to feel it by 2018. There will be less of the hairs on your back that are a little bit anxious.
No, I mean, for a lot, one of the biggest things, and I'm sure you know this, is criticisms of yourself and anyone who reads the tea leaves, for lack of a better term, to lump a lot of people into one boat, is everybody wants this on Tuesday at 4:27 Eastern Standard Time. A 53-foot wave is going to hit New York City and kill exactly 1.9 million people. Right. Instead of all of us learning to roll with it and flow with it, as it were. And that's where I think we get some of the discontent. And that's, obviously a realistic concern about what happens when we get a big kick in the head here from Mother Nature, whether it's an earthquake, another big storm, or whether it's our sun doing something wonky in the sky that makes everyone go, something's not right. Why is the sun purple now?
Well, that's the look up in the sky thing, and everybody sheds the idea that warfare is somehow valuable on the planet. When you see the sun doing something that's going to be so extraordinary, it's going to, that's another escalation of the level of energy universe has to use to break through, and apparently it will insist. And we're leaving behind the age of Pisces, which hey. Thankfully, the god goes, okay? Pisces, gods were an invention of the Piscean age, and they are gone now. I don't care whose god it was. As Pisces flows away, so will their influence. Right now, we know, for instance, that the Catholic Church is dying in the United States, and there's nothing they can do to resurrect it. The average age of the nuns is something like 75. The average arrest record of the priest is like 16. So 16 arrests. so they're just not making much headway. And they are not alone. Religion in an organized fashion is dying all around the planet, and universe apparently is insisting on this. Now what is coming out, of course, is the uncertainty of what we're going to have when all of this occurs. And I agree with you. Everybody at the sheeple level wants it to occur on a specific time so they can go and watch their TV and sit down with their TV dinners and not be bothered by it. Unfortunately, that's just not the reality that's in our future, and it's not doom and gloom, but it is massive change to the level that you will live in a world of uncertainty, and that, I think, is more frightening to a lot of the people than any of the physical effects that may get them. It's the level of uncertainty that, that normal is gone. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap up here fairly quick. Okay. I've got to get food for Kathy and tend to other chores here, so... if there's other questions, maybe we can hit them real quick.
Other than maybe just, giving us a little update from the bots in terms of, temporal markers to look for in the coming months that you've not addressed other places or in other woos.
One of, at the moment, that you brought up, is all of the soldiers looking up. We can't have, it's a huge temporal marker for the immediacy of the global coastal event. How immediate, I don't know, but it's not longer than 3 weeks after that instance. The soldiers looking up can't exist unless there's lots of soldiers out on battlefields, so it is, I don't want to say encouraging, but it is expected that we would get into a situation of emotional upheaval that would cause armies to go out onto battlefields all over prior to this last effect from the sun and then all the other crud that's going to hit as part of the global coastal event. I suspect that the timeline is still pretty good. And other things that I haven't really talked about is something we've noticed recently is a large number of quakes that are pointing to a North Pacific extension of a particular crack in the undersea floor of the Pacific Ocean out here. I don't suspect that methane will be released in quantity as a result of this. There are other forces that are going on down there that would tend to keep the methane locked into the sediment, but it does appear as though this particular... Well, let me back up. If you go to like Google Earth or any of these various mapping places and you look at the bottom of the ocean without the water in place, you'll notice exactly that the Earth is expanding by these series of ruptures and cracks in the ocean as the continents spread further apart from each other away from the center point. So let's stop for a second in Earth changes real quick and examine one thought. All of our Earth changes are not relative between me and France, okay? Any changes between Washington State and France are not really a relationship between the United States or Washington State and France. They're the relationship between Paris and the center of the Earth and, say, Olympia and the center of the Earth. As our relationship to the center of the Earth changes, our relationship to each other changes. The real core of what's going on is that the core of the Earth is expanding, and we're going to get a bunch more ruptures and cracks and so on. This is going to be coincident with the outpouring of the energy from the sun, because it's that outpouring that causes this. Therefore, we can make certain assumptions based on our temporal markers that when we get the maximum amount of the armies on the ground, I suspect we're very close to that solar level of output that will cause everybody to say, hey, wait a second. This doesn't make any sense. I got to get home. My house might be frying. My people are at risk. That, I think, is probably January, February sort of a time frame, just based on what we're seeing with the solar weather and the changes in the weather, and especially the appearance of these mega lows. And we're going to get hit by another one of these on the West Coast here starting on Wednesday that looks to be centered on Northern California, and maybe it'll be another Sandy level of destruction on Northern California. They're projecting rain between 10 and 20 inches in a number of days only. So it's going to be quite horrific. But this is what we saw as these temporal markers that were appearing at the same time that we're heading into the global coastal event. The shift will be that after that event, the 20 inches of rain will be hitting, Topeka or, someplace in Tennessee, and it'll be coming from the West Coast. So we are reasonably close to that. I don't think it's time for anybody to really change any of the way they're doing things. Just keep on keeping on. And over the next maybe 4 months, we'll see two key temporal markers relative to the financial system. One of those is probably happening at this moment. We'll know for sure, say in another 5 or 7 days, something like that. If we see a spike in the precious metals and a drop in the relative value of the dollar over this next period of time, that will be the beginning of that trend. So for those guys that are following the line for the escalation of silver, we'll get there. I think that we're at that. We've crossed a temporal marker today. As I say, we'll know in maybe a week or so for sure. It's not a good thing, though, because we get the $600 an ounce silver kind of stuff just about the time of the global coastal event.
Really? That close to it?
It's all rammed in there together. I can't separate within the data because of the way that the data lays itself out. There's not enough separation in there for me to be able to say you've got a week gain of the silver before the global coastal event or 3 weeks, but it's probably within that 3-week period of time. When it hits the 600. Now it's got to ramp up there. So, maybe you have a need and you sell your ounce of silver at $100, as opposed to waiting for the $600. That kind of a thing. I could be 100% wrong on the global coastal event on all of this, but the temporal markers sure seem to be laying out. The temporal marker that leads to the global coastal event can be directly associated with all of the armies, just the mass desertions and all kinds of problems relative to some external to the planet seen in the sky effect. So if we see that effect, then you can be pretty sure the global coastal event's going to come along, because it's so outrageous to forecast that. The first effect, the expulsion of something from the sky causing all the mass desertions. Now, relative to the silver, when you see a particular level of interaction in a legal setting, and it's broadcast, and it relates to gold. I can't get into this in too much details, but if it occurs over these probably next 10 days or so, then I can say definitively we're on that trail that leads to the $600 an ounce gold. And unfortunately, it also seems to be on the same trail that leads us to the global coastal event. So sorry about that, but hey, there we go.
Well, I mean, again, like I tell everyone, use your information and many others just as, these are signposts along the way. And I guess the final thing to kind of wrap it up, and maybe for a whole nother topic of conversation at some time, my favorite part of all the reports, as much as, initially I'll be honest, I chuckled at some of this, but as over the years you have proven yourself more right than wrong, Space Goat Farts.
I love that. Yeah. That's such a good entity.
Oh,
yeah.
That is the greatest word ever.
Well, it's because, the giant mutant space goats, that's how they propel themselves from planet to planet. The second law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, hey, that is a really cool area. We're going to see all kinds of breakouts there like nobody's business. Disclosure is going to be the ugliest, messiest business around. And, even though we'll all be packing here in the U.S., don't go shooting at the space aliens just because they're space aliens. Some of them ain't as nasty as the others. But also in the space goat farts thing, there is a real pointer to some nasties that the powers that be fear. And their fear is focused on 2013, 2014. So we don't have long. And I think that that's going to be very interesting because the Space Goat Farts entity has turned out to be, in spite of how outlandish it is, very accurate.
Yeah, that's what's a little bit hard about it. The farmers with shotguns on the front line. When I read that one, I said, okay.
Also a lot of the personality stuff where we get the detail things would always come through cross links into Space Goat Farts. So even like blondes on boats, the blonde component of it, the description of the women involved was through a cross links through the Space Goat Farts. And so that's been very accurate for the details. Why that should be, I don't know. But I suppose I could think about it, but I got too much other stuff to do at the moment. But the Space Goat Farts and for everybody who's really interested in the UFOs and all of this, it looks like we're there, folks, and it's just a matter of time before, I don't know, weeks, months, more and more to the point where even the sheep will start saying, huh?
Yeah. That's one of the things I've told a lot of people. I can't wait to see some of this come to pass, because if we are it, and this is the final thought, if we're it in this universe is doomed. Because humans, if we get off this planet, we're going to see something and kill it. Oh, look, what's that? Kill it. And it might be the most intelligent creature in the universe. And I think we've got a little bit to learn because it won't be, good folks like you or me or Jay Widener or any number of people going out in these explorations. It'll be the military. And we kind of don't need that.
Well, after the global coastal event, I don't think that's true anymore. That's the cool part. That's the really, truly unexpected part in all of this. Is that I always expected to have to deal with the government and military in that mindset. And apparently something happens. They go into their hidey holes or they wake up or some damn thing. And after, say, June 1 of next year, they're just not much of a force. Now, maybe some of them come out later on out of the holes, and we've got to slap them about the head a bit to just say, no, you're not going to be allowed to do this. Mm-hmm. But world changes between now and June of next year. And so let's start planning for how we want it to be after June.
Well, and hence the reason that I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to, have this conversation. And I think we covered a lot of interesting points.
Probably ran a lot longer than we'd anticipated, but yeah.
Well, it's, I'll take a line from the one Harry Potter movie. I want one of those hourglasses where the sand moves based upon how good the conversation is.
That's great. Well, it's been 10 minutes then.
Well, and that's what it feels like. I just looked over and looked at the time and realized, oh my God, we've been going at this, and I feel like we just barely started to cover stuff. But again, I know you have things to do. I am in the audience, of course. You've been the most requested person for a long time to spend a little time with us, and I think we've ferreted out and got into some things that I've never heard you really get into previously.
Well, good. I'm very pleased then. And I do have to ring off now. It's been very nice chatting with you. You've got a great voice. You should keep on keeping on.
Yeah, well, I intend to. And you know what? Maybe we'll see you again in another dojo.
Thank you very much.
You have a great day. Thank you.